The Like a Dragon speedrun is a great showcase of some of the game's most broken abilities, as runners are able to beat the game with very minimal grinding despite the massive difficulty spike towards the end. Come on, you know the one I'm talking about. With 7 characters to use and 22 jobs to choose from, this gives casual players many options to experiment around with, especially since some skills carry over between jobs. So we can grind for a few hours to make any character a powerhouse with a diverse portfolio of skills to cover their bases. However, speedrunners don't have the luxury of grinding for hours on end to bulk up the party's resumes, so everyone is stuck with just one main job they'll use throughout the game. It puts runners in a tough spot where they must strike the best balance when it comes to damage, survivability, and type coverage to beat all these difficult endgame bosses when they're more than 10 levels lower than them. So given all these restrictions, which characters are considered the best from a speedrunner's perspective, and what jobs do they go with? Before we get started, a huge shout out to MechanalystTom and Froob for research for this video. Both of them have put in many hours speedrunning Like a Dragon and pushing the top times down to nearly 3 hours. Without them, this video wouldn't be possible. You can find links to their channels down below. Let's start at the very bottom of the list with the most unfortunate character, Zhao. Zhao is the only character in the speedrun who is never used, ever, which I find extremely unfortunate because I really like Zhao. Zhao joins the party at level 32 during a time where the main party is already between levels 31 and 33, so he doesn't even have the benefit of joining the team at a high level. Zhao's default class Gangster comes with some nice debuffs such as bleed, burn, stun, and so on. So he has quite a bit of variety. Unfortunately for him, the party can't really take advantage of them because of how fast fights are. He also mainly deals blade and blunt damage, but there are better options for both, and he also lacks any full stage AoE attacks, which are very important for clearing out groups of enemies. He's a great all-rounder to have in a team, but he doesn't do any one thing well enough to justify having him in the party, and the time and money it would take to make him meaningfully contribute to this party just isn't worth it. There is one use for Zhao though, and that's to unequip his gear and give it to the rest of the party, because that's the only good part of him. It's so unfortunate seeing Zhao rank so low in the list, but the game just actively works against him for speedrunning purposes. Coming in second to last, we have the homeless man, Nanba. Nanba's in a weird position because of the way he and speedrunning work together. Nanba's actually an amazing unit in the early game thanks to Pyro Belch, which does some good fire magic damage in a straight line. He can easily decimate a few of the bigger groups of enemies in the run thanks to how powerful it is. However, Pyro Belch does have one glaring issue, and that's the animation time. The skill itself is pretty lengthy, especially when compared to skills such as Mega Swing. For casual players, animation time isn't worth considering as long as you aren't talking about animations that take a few years to run. But for speedrunners, it's one of those small things that they start nitpicking once a proper route has been established. While Pyro Belch is great against groups of enemies, it's not so great against single enemies unless you're hitting weakness, which is why speedrunners will often have Nanba guard if he isn't hitting multiple enemies. And to make matters worse, Nanba ideally wants to go first in the early parts of the game, but his agility isn't high enough to always do so, which causes Ichiban to outspeed him every now and then. About halfway through the game, a bit before he leaves the party for story reasons, Nanba gets kicked out of the party, and by the time he returns about 30 minutes later, he returns at level 28, but the main party has already reached level 29 at this point, and with much better jobs available. Nanba's mainly a magic user, so his best classes are Homeless and Host. But Host is locked to bond level 4 for Nanba, and neither of these classes are capable of hitting high numbers late game, unlike the other classes used in the run. The Homeless class doesn't do much that Host doesn't already do, and Ichiban is already made into a Host much earlier. Also, having multiple hosts doesn't give much benefit, which is too bad because I like turning my party into the Yokohama Host Club when I play this game casually and charming all the dudes. So Nanba is left in the dust after he leaves the party and never makes a comeback. Coming in 5th is Psycho. Psycho is good for one thing and one thing only, and that's Sparkling Cannon. Psycho has the Hostess job unlocked by default, and one of the default skills that Hostesses have is Sparkling Cannon, which does a ridiculous amount of magic ice damage, way more than this skill has any excuse doing. In the early to mid game, Psycho spams the skill a lot, dealing over 300 damage when the party is only levels 14 to 15. Her damage falls off pretty quickly as Adachi and Eri manage to catch up once they get their best jobs. Also, just like with Pyro Belch, Sparkling Cannon has a long animation, making it less efficient to use compared to other, much better skills. Once Jugi Han joins the team, Psycho gets kicked out of the party and is gone for the most part, though she does make a return for the Kiryu and Tendo fights much later on in the game. She's used for the Kiryu fight because unlike Chris Brown, Kiryu doesn't beat women, which is convenient for limiting the number of potential targets. On top of that, Adachi's best attack is a blunt attack, and both Kiryu and Tendo have massive blunt damage resistance, making her a better candidate for attacking in these two scenarios. Outside of these two fights, she's no longer needed for the run, which is why she's sitting in 5th place despite doing so much damage in some of the earlier fights. Speaking of Adachi, in 4th place is a friendly neighborhood DMV paper pusher himself. I love Adachi. He's actually my favorite character of the cast, so it's great seeing runners get some mileage out of him even if he's not at number 1. Adachi isn't so great in the early game as he doesn't have access to any particularly great skills in his unique job, Detective. He's mostly attacking enemies with his baton, or in some cases he gets to use his reckless charge skill to potentially hit multiple enemies. His default jobs also aren't too great, having only bodyguard and foreman, neither of which are useful in the run, but at level 15 he can become an enforcer, which has some amazing damage. At just Enforcer level 6, he learns the Paralysis Prongs ability, which is a very nasty blunt attack and is also the most convenient source of Thunder Elemental damage this early on. He also learns the essence of Shield Rupture at level 22 Enforcer, which is an AoE attack with a cutscene. The best part of essence skills like this is that the cutscene is actually skippable, meaning these are the fastest skills to use in the game. Despite being one of the hardest hitters in the team though, he does have a few glaring issues, keeping him so low in the list. First off, Adachi is really slow. I guess it makes sense considering he's 59 years old. He's basically a fossil in anime years. Just a few more years and we can use him as gas during these trying times. As if that wasn't bad enough, the Enforcer job is the slowest job as well, so he gets hit with a double speed penalty, making him take around half as many turns as the rest of the party. This isn't so much of an issue earlier on as his damage makes up for his lack of speed, but his speed and the fact that he only does blunt damage is a big factor in why he's the one who gets cut out in the Tendo and Kiryu fights. His lack of speed also makes him a terrible support, as Psycho would just get more turns to use items, which also gives her the leeway to use a sparkling cannon or two when needed. Due to these factors, he does get a bit of the shorter end of the stick, as the other main members of the party get much higher priority when it comes to weapon upgrades. An upgrade for Adachi is only worth about half as much as an upgrade for the others. Coming in at 3rd place, we have the main man himself, Ichiban. Despite being the main character and all, Ichiban is in a bit of an unfortunate position. First off, his default jobs of Freelancer, Hero, Bodyguard, and Breaker all range from bad to okay in the run. Even his main job, Hero, is just mediocre when it comes to damage, so it gets swapped out quickly in favor of Host, which Ichiban can learn after getting his style up to level 3. The host job is really important because first off, it's a great source of AoE damage as it gets the essence of Rose Typhoon, which is a cutscene attack that deals extreme fire magic damage. Additionally, Ichiban gets a powerful self-heal Secret Cocktail, which is perfect as an emergency panic button in case fights start going south, especially since Like a Dragon is one of those games where you get a game over when a main character dies, even though you have 3 other party members who can throw revival items. I guess Ichiban's illusions can't save himself from a game over. He also gets a decent amount of speed from Host in order to start earlier in the turn order to clear out the weaklings faster for the better characters to attack. Ichiban's main use though comes from Pound Mace, which is an unfair advantage that he has. Pound Mace is a feature where you ring up a friend to summon them to either deal damage, heal a party, buff the party, or debuff enemies. And just like essence skills, these cutscenes are skippable as well, making them extremely efficient for dealing damage. Pound Mates are a huge factor in making the run as fast as it is, thanks to summons like Robson the Cat, who does massive AoE damage to enemies, on par with the Saejima, Majima, and Kiryu summons that are obtained much later, but at a cost of only 50,000 yen, as opposed to the 1 million yen cost from summoning our Yakuza friends. As well as Mr. Masochist, who gives the party a defense boost with a chance of an upgraded defense boost, allowing runners to survive the endgame bosses despite being so underleveled. That said, all of this is from the Pound Mates themselves and not Ichiban. If everyone could use Pound Mates, that would severely cut into Ichiban's usefulness, as the only thing he'd have going for him is his early access to the host job, which is nice to have and enough to keep him in the party if he wasn't forced in any ways, though chances are he would get kicked out of the party every now and then. In number 2, we have the hitman and K-pop star Jungi Han. Jungi Han's capabilities are far and above anything Ichiban provides outside of his friends with benefits, I mean his Pound Mates. Same thing really. Jungi Han joins all the way in chapter 9, a little over halfway through the game, joining a whole 4 levels higher at level 28, while the rest of the party is still at level 24. He is also one of 2 characters who never leaves the party after joining. Technically 3, but Ichi doesn't count. His starting class Hitman starts out with head trauma, which does some amazing blunt damage and even has a really fast animation to go with it. This gets boosted further later on thanks to the Dragon Knuckles obtained in the Sotenbori battle arena, though only for a short period of time before it gets sold. Later on, he even learns the essence of Phantom Drive, which is a powerful cutscene attack that does extreme blade damage, as well as the Vine Shot, which does heavy gun damage to all enemies in an arc, making him both a great AoE and a great single target attacker, while having far more options than Adachi, who's forced into pure blunt damage. On top of being a heavy hitter, he's also the fastest in the team, making him a great clutch support when needed. If a fight starts going south, Joongi Han could potentially salvage things due to his speed, potentially giving him a turn before the boss can do any more damage to the party. Overall, he provides a lot to the party, and he doesn't really have any downsides holding him back. And in the number 1 spot, we have the businesswoman Eri. Eri is actually an optional character to get, as you need to play some of the business management minigame to unlock her. But she's so good that runners spend the 5 or so minutes to grab her, and she makes that time back very quickly. She joins the party at level 14, which is about the same as the rest of the team at this point. And very soon after she joins, she learns Thumbtack Scatter at level 4 Clerk, which is a powerful AoE skill that does medium blunt damage in a wide area to clear out enemies in Yokohama Underground. During this section, she's also very helpful for fleeing encounters, as the requirements for escaping battle is for the character to run a certain distance without bumping into anything, and Eri has a shorter distance she needs to travel to flee compared to Ichiban. She's also the fastest in the party at this point, so she gets a chance to flee at the start of every encounter, and if she fails, Ichiban can cover for her with a smoke bomb for a guaranteed escape. This cuts down on the average number of smoke bombs needed in a run, saving time and money from having to buy more. At level 15, Eri gains access to Dealer, which is a disgustingly good physical attacker, and at just Dealer level 6, she learns the Dart Airstrike ability, where she throws 3 darts in the air, each dealing a ridiculous amount of gun damage to the targets they hit. With many targets, Eri will randomly attack 3 enemies, each taking 1 hit each, but with only 1 enemy, she will attack that enemy 3 times, making her both a great AoE and single target attacker. It's also one of the earliest sources of gun damage available, which makes it a great option for type coverage in the run. She also learns Trickster's Top Hat at Dealer level 18, which can potentially inflict poison onto Tendo, and the poison itself is twice as strong as Joongi Han's poison, though with the downside being that Trickster Top Hat has 4 different effects it will randomly choose from. But in the unlikely scenario that a runner gets it to land, it helps make the fight go by faster. She's typically dealing the most damage on each boss fight throughout the entire run, though she does have one major drawback, which is that she gets nerfed when there are multiple targets when she only wants to attack one enemy. This was partially fixed by having Ichiban and Joongi Han outspeed her in order to clear out the trash before her turn, but there's still situations such as the Majima and Saejima fight where she wants to attack Saejima but gets nerfed due to Majima who resists gun damage existing on the field. That said, she does naturally learn other skills like Lucky Punch and Jackpot Chip, which both have a high chance to crit, so she's not completely helpless when her Dart Airstrike gets nerfed for a fight. Overall, she does the most damage throughout the course of the run and is rarely outdamaged by the other party members. Her contributions are massive from the moment she joins all the way until the very end of the game. With so few jobs used, it's impressive how speedrunners can cover their bases so well that they can get through these hard endgame bosses so underleveled and so quickly as well. If you're interested in watching the run, you can find the Like a Dragon speedrun leaderboards in the description below. And thanks again to MechanalystTom and Froob for helping out for this video.